What's up, Whittier?
Welcome to What's Up, Whittier, a homegrown podcast.
A podcast to showcase Whittier's businesses, personalities, and hidden treasures.
Hey everybody, producer Christine here. But I did want to let you know that this is part of our City Council Candidate Series. Early Election Day starts on February 22nd, and actual Election Day is on March 3rd. Here at What's Up Whittier, we believe in democracy and having an open forum for candidates to really come from the heart and talk about why they're running for office. So I hope you enjoy this series in the next few episodes. Thank you for listening, subscribing, leaving us reviews for What's Up Whittier. As you know, this is a free community resource to everybody. So we're here, we're interviewing our future representatives, and we want you to get out the vote. If you're not registered to vote, you can head to lavote.net to check your registration and register people to vote. If you know kids or teenagers that are 16 and up, did you know they can actually pre-register to vote? Definitely. So go to lavote.net and get people pre-registered. And again, thank you so much for tuning in to What's Up Whittier. You can follow all of our social media. Check us out at What's Up Whittier on Instagram and Facebook, at What's Up 562 on Twitter, and check out our new website, whatsupwhittier.xyz. And also check out all of our social media, the team. You can check out Remo the Realtor at remotherealtor.com and everything at Remo the Realtor. And you can follow Jessie the Architect at J2 Architects on Facebook, Instagram, and j2architects.com. But you can head over to christinesingerluna.com if you're interested in notary services, because I am a notary. Thank you so much, everybody, for following along with What's Up Whittier and for trusting us to bring you this type of resourceful information. Now, take it away, Jessie and Remo.
What's up, Whittier?
Dun, da, da, da.
Remo,
Talk to me, Jesse.
how you doing, man?
I'm well. We're in a different location today. I got the hills behind me. I kind of feel like I got a bad seat because you guys get to enjoy the nice view.
That's what happens when you show up
I
late,
know,
my friend.
I came late and I was with my back to the beautiful view that we're here with.
Well, speak to me. Where we at today?
You know what? And I will describe it physically because I don't know the actual name of the building, but it's the turquoise green building, or turquoise is probably its own color, right next to City Hall. So we're on the 5th floor of it's a law office because I see 3 names on the
door.
Yeah. That's to the extent that I know.
Yeah,
and I know we're in Suite 510.
There you go.
Yeah.
No, man, this is a good space. I mean, we forget that there's this building here and the potentials in terms of the views that it has.
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, I think anybody in this building is spoiled.
Yeah.
Spoiled with an awesome view.
Yeah, especially on the other side, because you can see all the way to Palos Verdes and Long Beach, and if it's a beautiful day, you see Catalina.
That's
Very
right.
nice.
That's right. And all the beautiful sunsets if you're working late, right?
Always, always.
All right. Well. Again, we're gonna kind of continue our city council candidate interviews.
/ mayor.
Yeah, and today we have a candidate for mayor. Remo, who do we have today?
Who's also our current mayor, which
That's
is
right.
Joe Vinatieri. Welcome, Joe.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I'm a little froggy. I don't know if I'm coming down with this stuff, but the throat is today.
I was going to say it builds character, right?
I don't need character. I just want to stay well.
You're right. With this weather, and that's what I tell everybody. It's like it seems that it's we get some cold weather, warm weather, windy weather, and it's like, man, make up your mind, because if not, we're all going to end up in the same place.
And in our office, they always try to correct it with appropriate either heating or AC.
Oh.
So that throws in a different layer where it's just your body's always getting a different element. So
Yeah. Well, we can't complain too much, guys, because they're having a really horrible snowstorm back here today.
Yeah.
So, and we're looking out here, and it's kind of cloudy, but the hills are green.
Yeah.
And it's Southern California.
Yeah.
That's right.
Winter.
That's right.
Yeah.
And we can't complain.
Well, Joe, would you like to introduce yourself as we go through the candidate questions? We have standardized questions that we put together. And so the first one is obviously introduce yourself and let people know.
Well, I'm Joe Vinatieri, and longtime resident of Whittier. Excuse me. And just lived here a long, long time. and this is home for me. Yeah, this is home. So I get to be the current mayor, and looking to continue on with that.
Yeah. How many years have you served as mayor?
I was first elected in 2016 when we went to the new districts in the citywide elected mayor. There we go. Feels like electric sometimes. But I've been on the city council. I was elected in 2006. There was someone who was appointed and determined not to run for re-election, or for election, I should say. And so I ran in 2006. And was elected at that time, and then I had a regular 4-year term in 2008, so 2008 to 2012, and then again in 2012. And then 2016, we went to the new form of elections in government.
And so now you're going for re-election, but it's what is it, every 2 years that you got to go back?
Yes. The current, the way it works, the current districts, those are 4-year terms. The mayor is a 2-year term. The theory is that that way, at least the people, the voters of Whittier, are voting for a mayor, and there's somebody always to vote for every 2 years. Otherwise, it's you could have off years and no one votes. That's the theory. I'll tell you, I'm of the belief that it needs to change.
Correct. That makes sense.
It's been very. It's real interesting. You do your run for mayor, and you really get ramped up, and it takes so much time and effort, especially now that we've gone to the county election system, and we have a lot more people voting, which is a good thing, but it's much more expensive and much more intense. But at the same time, you get done with the election, and then you're tired, and you need to take a break for 2-3 months because you've just been going at it so hard, and try to get back to, in my case, practicing law. Because I've kind of put a lot of things on hold while you're running for re-election, let alone you're trying to also do the mayor thing. So you take time off, and you finally get a chance to rest in that. So then you have about 6 months, maybe a little bit longer, to actually work on what you're trying to work on in terms of vision and that stuff. And then guess what? It's time to run again. So it's I've talked to several people about it. I think it needs to be changed. I really do.
Having gone through it a couple of times, is it easier? Is it harder? Do you going back for the re-election? When
you run and you're a candidate, you never take anything for granted. You always run. Full bore, which is more than 100%, it's 200%. You always run. And so whether you've been in there or not, you got to run full bore and give it everything. And when at election time is the time when you actually end up going door to door, and you can talk to people, find out what's on their minds. People tell you stuff at the door that they would never tell you in regular conversation somewhere else. So it's a good time, but it's very, very labor intensive, and takes up just lots and lots and lots of time. But that's the way it is, and that's what you need to do
for now.
For now, yes. I'm here focused on this day and this election right now.
That's right.
You mentioned that you practice. I mean, the next question is, what is your profession?
Yeah, I'm an attorney. Excuse me. And I do California state and local tax law. What that means basically is I have lots and lots of experience in dealing with the state tax authorities, the Franchise Tax Board, used to be the State Board of Equalization, still do work with them, but the California Department of Tax and Fee Administration, which does sales and use tax, local county assessors up and down the state on property tax. So I know I'm an expert on when it comes to taxation because I represent lots of clients, and I've been at this, over 30 years, 35 years, whatever it's been now. So I know the system, state and local taxation, and because of that, I know a lot about finance and government finance and how you make things happen, cash flow, bonding, and things like that. So what's real good for me is I've got a number of great clients and over the years, and what has helped me to do is to see both sides of the picture, because when you're the mayor, you're looking at the government fisc and how much money you have because you've got needs You got some wants, but you have needs, and you got to figure out, well, how are we going to afford this? Yeah. And there's a question here later we'll talk about, but you look at that. So I'm putting on my mayor hat, and I'm looking at, well, how do we afford this, and what do we need to do? At the same time, I take that hat off and I put on my hat as an advocate for a taxpayer who's getting audited by the state of California, and unmercifully so, over arcane legal points, tax legal points, that seem to be heavy-handed and overly bureaucratic regulatory-wise. And you say, wait a second, why do you want to be doing this to businesses? Mm-hmm. Because the businesses are what bring in the cash, which enables the government to function.
Yeah.
And so there's a balance of making sure that you have what you need to perform essential governmental needs like public safety, et cetera. But you got to be really careful, which is an issue in this state, of being overly bureaucratic, over regulatory, overtaxing, and driving people out of the state. And that is an issue, and people talk about it and say, well, it's really not real. It's real. Yeah. It's very real. So when I make decisions as the mayor, I'm looking at what we need and police officers, et cetera. But at the same time, I'm trying to make sure, is this something we really need? How's it going to hurt our business community? And that type of thing. So it's kind of a balancing.
Balance, yeah. Makes sense. Joe, you say you've been here forever. We won't ask what that means, but what keeps you here in Whittier?
Whittier, there we go. Whittier is a unique place, and there's very few places like it in Southern California. It has the Quaker heritage, which gives it religious and churches are really important here. There's an ethos here of people who basically they look out for each other. There's usually a good amount of respect for people. They keep their property values up. They really hearken on very good school district, school systems and that. And there's just a lot of people who've come to Whittier over the generations because they want to raise a family here. Yeah. They like those values. We find those values in other places in Southern California, but because of our background, we're unique. Mm-hmm. And so part of what is so important to me as the mayor is to make sure that we keep those values, that they become even stronger, because people are moving here, young families, to raise kids, just like my family did, just like I did with my family. And we want to keep those values, but at the same time, we want to make sure we're moving forward in terms of the technology and things that are going on. So we don't want to do a Mayberry thing, but on the other hand, we want to make sure that we keep our basic values, because people really yearn for that. The hills, the beautiful homes that we have, et cetera.
Yeah. So I know you're going for re-election, but why are you? I mean, you kind of touched on it on why you're going for re-election, which again I agree with you. The 2-year term doesn't make sense. Maybe I'll have to speak to the mayor about that. But
I wish the mayor had the power to do something, but he doesn't.
But tell us why are you running again?
Well, we've got some things going on here that we planted a while back, and I just want to make sure that they come to fruition and they are done well. And so it's one of those situations where we've laid a framework, a groundwork for a number of things in this town, and I just want to make sure that we see those things through. And as I say, that we do the best, that they're excellent. So that's kind of what this is all about, and just keep on keeping on.
There you go. Keep moving forward, right?
Yep. Yes.
Well, I have I know it's not one of these questions, just for those that are maybe listening and are coming to Whittier or considering coming to Whittier. What are some of the exciting things that are happening in Whittier? It's just maybe in a short one-liner, a couple-liners that you might be.
See, now he's being selfish.
Yeah, well,
he wants to scoop in. He wants to scoop on
stuff that's public. that I think if someone's listening, that they say, you know what, let's go check out Whittier. They have a lot of things going on. Because I think at a high level, obviously you know a lot of it, but maybe
No, I think that's a very good question. One of the things we're looking at right now, and I've got it down here further, is we're looking at a people mover system. We've had a meeting or two about that, and that's to come up with some kind of shuttle system here in town that moves people around, that's on time, it's low cost, and basically you don't need to get in your car. And what we've been talking about initially is something up here, and I've talked about it a couple for two times now, but things take time.
Yes.
And so we're talking about some kind of people mover or shuttle system that would start from the college and go down Philadelphia through the Uptown into the Groves to PIH and back, and then ultimately out Lambert to the Whitwood, and then the Whitwood down Whittier Boulevard to the Quad, then the Quad back up to the college on Painter. And so we've had a couple meetings about that, and we're waiting to get some plans back on it. We also, really cool, we've become acquainted with an AV, autonomous vehicle company back in Boston. And Fernando and I were back there to visit them to see how those vehicles work. And they're kind of scary because you go, somebody, no driver? But we looked at we saw the technology and what they're doing. And it's a kind of a shuttle system, and it's only for limited situations. But they came back out here about a month ago, just before Christmas, from Boston, and we're talking with the owners, the developers of the Groves, also PIH Health Hospital, for maybe some kind of shuttle, autonomous vehicle shuttle back and forth between the Groves and the hospital. And why this is exciting to me is, you're going to have this hospital that's growing and is growing, and there's going to be, down the road, there's going to be some research facilities there. And what's going to happen is you're going to have all these homes at the Groves that they're now framing the models, and people are going to be able to basically live right there at the Groves and either walk to the hospital and jobs and the research facilities, or go back and forth on some type of autonomous a shuttle system that goes goes around the Groves and goes down and then around the hospital and back, which is perfect for that kind of situation. So it's nobody else. This particular company is doing one. The first one, I believe, on the West Coast is up at a facility up in Northern California, and so we've been talking to them. We'll see how it pans out, because the technology is coming on very quickly, and of course it has to be safe. But these folks are all from MIT, and they know what they're doing. So I'm really kind of excited about that. So Whittier's usually slower in technology and stuff, and we're usually late for everyone else. But who knows on this one? We were even thinking about maybe taking from Uptown up to Hellman Park.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So we're waiting to see on that one. So we've been talking about it, and it's now starting to potentially come to fruition. So that's exciting for us, because we're looking to the future.
Very cool.
Yeah.
See, Remo, now you could actually get on a vehicle and start taxiing without having to worry about driving.
My car has an autonomous feature. I have a Tesla, and I see the technology at firsthand because I use it quite often. And at the same time, it's really scary because sometimes, I've had the car in autonomous driving, and obviously it's the roads that allow it to be really good or, not so good. Mm-hmm. And so if you have a controlled environment where it's from one place to the other and it's the exact same thing and no people walking, then it's great. If you have stop sign, kids playing, trash can, that's when it gets a little, it's not as consistent.
No, and you hit it, because that's what we're looking at with the hospital and the Groves. And so we're working it. Yeah. I think it's pretty cool.
No, definitely. Technology. Anytime you bring technology to any city, it's just going to excite and move things,
Yeah,
So,
yeah, exactly.
Very cool. So the next question is, do you serve in any other volunteer organizations that you think would help for your...
City of Whittier, man.
Well, that's one. Yeah.
I don't as much as I used to. I was involved with the Chamber of Commerce. I was involved with the YMCA and church and the like. But it pretty much precludes me from... there's so much...
Yeah, you're probably super busy, right?
I'm too busy.
Yeah. All right, we'll just go to the next one then. What is the biggest concern you've been hearing from residents while canvassing or just reaching out to potential voters?
It's homelessness. I mean, that's where it's at, and that's the biggest issue on people's minds. We had a neighborhood meeting out in East Whittier last night, and they wanted to know about what's going on with homelessness in Parnell Park. I had another one in East Whittier last week where it was homelessness, and I had one over here on the west side, homelessness. So no question, it's all about homelessness, and people are very, very much bothered by it, as well they should be, because I'm bothered by it, and I know the council members are bothered by it. So it's something that has our attention. We've had, we called it homelessness state of emergency.
Correct.
We've had a couple special meetings on the subject alone. We want people to make sure they express themselves, and I want them to know they're being heard. So the problem with homelessness, as we all know, is that homelessness is a multifaceted issue. Yeah. You just can't say, "Oh, well, go fix it." Yeah. You got to figure out, well, what group of homeless are we talking about?
Correct.
You normally, with women and children, and fathers, families, you don't see those families on the street.
That's right.
And the reason why is we've got a great program here in Whittier between the Whole Child, Salvation Army, Women and Children's Crisis Shelter. We're able to take those families once they're identified, and they'll go into the hospitality house at the Salvation Army. And then what happens, the Whole Child will try to find them shelter, apartment or something. Usually about 2 months there at the hospitality house. And then they go to some type of apartment situation. We have a really cool thing in Whittier for families called Imagine Whittier, and a lot of people don't know about it. But it's a group of a number of churches came together for the Consortium on Homelessness several years ago. And those are basically church people who want to do something about it. Well, what they've done is we took this program from downtown Los Angeles called Imagine LA, and we brought it out here. And basically what happens is trained people will work with a mother, will work with a child or a second child, and they'll kind of mentor them and try to make them become part of the community. And there'll actually be somebody who will help them, a third person or fourth person on the family for finances. And so you'll see if you go to Central Park or Parnell Park during the summer when we have concerts, you'll see some people over there if you look closely. A lot of them are the Imagine LA mentors and mentees, and just out and meeting people in the community. So things are. I mean, we always have some issues, but things are pretty good when it comes to that. So we're very pleased with that. Where we have the issue, of course, is the single adult males and single female adult females. And by and large, those are the people who we see on the street. And we've seen it at Parnell Park. We saw in the Greenbelt situation. And that's a different group of people. We also have people who are vets. We have people who are newly emancipated, who are in some kind of foster situation, who are now out. I mean, we have students who are some students who are homeless. So there's different groups, and depending upon the group, depends upon the different way that you deal with it.
Correct.
So where we have the major issue and what people see is the male and female adult homeless individuals.
Correct.
So and how you deal with that is very frustrating. And I don't know, should we go into the Boise case and all that stuff, or you want to not do that?
Well, no. I mean, the next question we go right into is how would you address homelessness?
Yeah. Right. Well, that's what we're doing right now. Yeah. So the way that we're addressing, I just gave you families and the like. With the adults, the situation is a lot different. And when it comes to adults, there are those who are newly displaced, who are economically displaced, and we can help them. if maybe they lost their job, their house, whatever. Assuming they want help, we can give them help. Doesn't always happen immediately, but we can get them help. They have a desire. Part of the issue, however, is the people that you see on the streets, a number of them are drug and alcohol addicted. And this is the way they live their life. And they don't want to live in with something over their head.
Yeah.
And also a number of those people are mentally ill. And they need help from that standpoint. So what we are confronted with here in Whittier is we have these different groups all coming together, and we then had a thing called the Boise case. Up until the Boise case, which was about a year and a half ago, you didn't see encampments in Whittier. And because when an encampment started, the police and we had volunteers would move people along. When Boise came, Boise basically said, hey, you can't enforce your camping ordinance in public spaces like a park unless you have a bed for each one of those individuals. And so we now have beds in Whittier. We have at First Day, but you can't enforce all the way unless you have those beds. So what we have done is basically we have beds now, and we are going to individuals and saying, hey, we have a bed for you. Now, the law says under Boise, supposedly, it's sometimes a little bit obtuse, that we can, if a person is offered a bed and doesn't want the bed, then at that point in time we can usher them out of the park, for example. You all know what we're doing right now at Parnell Park. We posted it, a week ago, I guess today or yesterday. And basically we said we're going to institute curfew, and everyone needs to be out of the park from sunset to sunrise, starting, I think it's the 27th next
Correct.
week.
Yeah.
So in the meantime, we've had the Sheriff's Homeless Outreach Task Force. We've had First Day. We've had PATH and LASA out at the park, getting to know each individual there, finding out what their need is and trying to give them services. And to the extent they want services, they're going to get services. But the problem is there are a group of people who just don't want services.
Correct.
And they just want to live this way. And that's their choice, but you can't live this way in a park. Yeah. Let's just put it that way, because the park was built for families, for kids, for seniors, for everybody, but it wasn't built for camping.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're doing, and we have the curfew that is in force at Leffingwell Ranch Park. We're going to have it in force at Parnell Park. And so I think the good thing is we're attempting to help to place people, and if people want to avail themselves of it, they're going to get all the help that they need, and we'll take care of it. But if they don't want it, then we got a problem. Yeah. So that's the frustrating thing.
Yeah, we keep hearing that there's a push to get a shelter built in Whittier, and obviously you have two groups that are either for it or against it. What's your take on that? And again, moving forward in terms of mayor.
Yeah, well, excuse me. It's clear to me that we need more beds in Whittier because we have beds at First Day, and I'm encouraging First Day to expand. They've been here for a long time. They're an institution in our community. We know them. We love them, and they do a great job. So I'd like to see them expand. So under the Boise case, and we're looking at, we're looking at getting into maybe some kind of settlement situation through the Orange County litigation on the Santa Ana River situation. We're exploring all that right now. What we're looking at is we need to have more beds in order to enforce the situation under Boise. Yeah. So we need more. The only issue is how many. On the one hand, we want enough beds to be able to do for people who want help, etc. On the other hand, we don't want to have so many beds that become a magnet.
Yes.
And so there's a balance there. And we haven't really known how many beds we need. We just did a census before Christmas, and we're getting that next week, the finalization of that census that tells us how many homeless people we actually have. And it's less than what LA Homeless Services Authority says we have. And, of course, tomorrow night, the 22nd, is the date that we do the homeless count for LASA. And I'd encourage anyone, well, I'm not sure when this is going to air, but to call First Day and be part of the solution of finding out how many homeless we have here. So it's a balance between having enough in a right setting, which I believe First Day is, but at the same time not overdoing it. And here's the reality. This is anecdotal. Our police, I think it was last week, went out and contacted 17 people at Parnell Park, and they know everybody now because of the services, and asked, would you like to have a bed tonight? And out of 17 people, they had 0 takers. So you don't want to be in a situation where in the Boise case you've got to have beds, but on the other hand, you don't want to be throwing money away. I mean, this is the public's, this is our taxpayer money, so we have to be wise with it. So we're in kind of a balancing thing right now. Yeah. You'll hear me say balance, so we're working through that right now, and hopefully, we're going to find that right balance, and we'll be moving forward on it.
And I think you said it correct in terms of the concern as a resident, where it's not necessarily like we understand that there's a financial impact to that, right? But from my end, it'd be more of like what you were saying earlier is you say you overbuild, or say you even provide a minimum, but not all of them are being taken. Mm-hmm. Like, are we setting ourselves up to start attracting or having to worry about having to intake homeless people or families or whatever from other cities or other organizations? And I think that's the biggest concern, at least when you say, hey, let's not build something. I think that's a concern. Like, are we really building it to deal with something, or are we just building something to attract more? And that's tough. I mean, it's
well, that's a major concern for this mayor.
Yeah,
it's a major concern because I've talked to the Mayor Pro Tem of Ontario, talked to the Mayor Pro Tem of Bellflower, and they've entered into settlement agreements. We need to figure out how this works. But in both Ontario and Bellflower, the court basically ordered that, you don't have a responsibility for people who are from outside your area. If you're Ontario, you take care of Ontario. If you're Bellflower, you take care of it. And there's some kind of nexus. They grew up there. They went to high school there. They, whatever it might be, they have family there. That's the kind of thing I think that we have to have here, and that's one of the things that we're talking about. Because we, at some point in time, I guarantee you, something's going to happen downtown L.A., and it's going to blow up, and people are going to be scattered, and they're going to be going everywhere, including here. And we have no responsibility, as far as I'm concerned, to take care of other people that don't have some kind of nexus or some type of relationship to Whittier. So how we do this, how we balance it, I mean, there's a question in my mind, to be candid with you, that we're here in Whittier, we're paying City of Whittier money for more beds, but there are people who identify themselves, for example, at Parnell Park, as Whittier residents, but they live in the Whittier County area. Mm-hmm. And yet, are we getting money from the county for that? And once again, I mean, whether Whittier City or Whittier County, we get into some, we all have a Whittier address, quote unquote.
Yeah.
But what is our relationship? What is our what are we responsible for? And I think we have to be very careful about trying to solve the problem for everyone else when we just have our own issues we need to deal with here.
And that's the thing. I mean, I think, again, looking at it from a resident's perspective, it's we shouldn't be the city that's going to go out there and champion this and try to take care of everybody else. Mm-hmm. Really, what we need to do is champion and take care of our own, right. and at a regional solution that again deals with that. And so,
yeah. Well, and we're it is a regional issue. It's not just a City of Whittier issue. Yeah. We're talking to Pico Rivera. We were talking to Metro State Hospital, which is, I just drove by there again today. It is a huge piece of property. They could easily do a shelter down there, a large shelter. So it's doable. There's another aspect of this, though, Remo, and I want to talk to you guys about this, Jessie, and that is that with people who are drug addicted and who don't want to do anything about their situation, and there are people who disagree with what I'm going to say right now, but I believe it strongly. We people voted for Proposition 47 several years ago, which decriminalized drug usage. And I understand because there were so many people in prison for drug use, okay? But what happens, you went from maybe too much to nothing. Yeah. And so what happens is the drug courts, they're gone. Yeah. The drug rehabilitation services, a lot of them are just gone. And so there's no accountability anymore. And I think a lot of the people you see on the street are people who were formerly being rehabilitated, and there was some accountability, and there is none now. So that's a major part of the problem that we have. And there's a second issue, and that is mental health. We in California have a thing called the Lanterman-Petrus Short Act. It was done back in the 60s. And what they did is they said, look, we're going to take people out of the asylums, quote unquote, and we're going to put them into community-based rehab or help mentally people or mentally challenged people. So they did that. The problem is they didn't really fund it. And so we have a situation here in California today where if someone wants to involuntarily put themselves into a mental locked facility or something like that, they can, and it works well. In fact, I think the first year we had the mental evaluation team, mental health evaluation team, Whittier PD. We had a police officer specially trained, and we had somebody from county mental health. We took 17 people who were on the street, who were homeless, who had mental issues, and they voluntarily agreed to get mental help. Yeah. So we got them off the street, which was wonderful. The problem is the people who don't want help. And the only way that you can do those people to help them is under the LPS, is you have to show that they're gravely disabled or they're a threat or a danger to themselves or society, to other people. That's a really high bar. A really high bar. I was out with the police a couple months ago. We went to a call in the west side of town, and it was a lady who was talking to herself. She was drinking, and I recognized her because I'd seen her around. And she was on private property in a apartment situation with families and stuff like that. So they called to get her out. Yeah. So I said, why aren't we doing something about her? Well, they said, well, we did, and we put her in for an evaluation, a 72-hour hold, just a couple weeks ago. And they went in for to check her out, and she was in for 72 hours, and they determined that she was capable of handling herself, and she's back out on the street. Yeah. And I said, I'm not a mental expert, evaluation expert, but it's just, she walks around, not shoes, no shoes sometimes, talking to herself. And I said, I don't get this. Well, that's the problem we have. Yeah. And so the state legislature has to do something about this, and they have not done anything about it. And I've been real disappointed with the governor because he came out with this big homelessness thing last week, and it gave, in my opinion, short shrift to mental health issues. Yeah. And this is the thing that kills me. There's a thing here in California, it's called a millionaire's tax. Anyone who makes $1 million or more, I know, Jessie, you're doing well these days.
Actually, I was Remo.
Is it Remo? Okay, Remo. All right, you're paying this money. You're paying this money. There is over $500 million. That's $500 million set aside in a special fund for mental health issues and this kind of thing. They haven't spent any of that money. It's just sitting there. In the meantime, here we are, we're surrounded, and here's the thing that really bugs the daylights out of me, is Sacramento is telling us what to do. They say, do this, do that, and yet who are the people who are feeling it? Yeah. It's us. We're the ones who have to clean up after all this, and yet they're the ones that are telling us what to do, and they don't provide money for it. They're not stepping up. So I know that Josue Alvarado was talking to Senator Bob Archuleta last week when he was in Sacramento. I met with Bob before Christmas to talk about this very issue. And one of the things I want to do today is people keep saying it's housing, housing, housing. Yes, a portion of it is housing. There are people who are economically deprived, who've lost jobs in that, which is tough to do in this economy, but it's happening, and they're out on the street. We want to help them. But the housing component is only one aspect. The thing that they're not talking about is the drug and alcohol on Prop 47 and the mental illness and not dealing with that. And until we get our arms around that and get serious about it, we're going to continue to see what we have here. Yeah. So I'm asking everybody, I'm glad we're talking, and I'm being straight up about this. There are people who are going to disagree with what I'm telling you right now, but it's there. We see it. All you have to do is go down. You can smell it, feel it, and touch it. So we need to do that. We need our legislators to help step up and propose legislation and get going. This is a non-partisan issue. This is not a partisan issue. This is about helping people, cleaning up our people, and helping them get off the street.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, I'm going to get off my soapbox.
With that, I mean, if you want to run for governor, I mean, might as well announce it now.
No. People ask me, "What's wrong with you now?" And you got a gun to your head. What's wrong with you? By the way, my wife would shoot me.
Yeah, no, we could go forever on this.
Yeah.
Again, it's an endless topic, but I'm glad you brought those points up because not a lot of people know about it, and not everybody's talking it or looking at it that way. And it's important that you look at it from all aspects because that's the only way you're going to be able to get a hold of what we really need to do. So thank you for that.
Yep.
The next one is number 2. What is your plan on retaining or attracting local business?
Well, we have a plan here in Whittier. If I'll just remind you, remember, we won most business-friendly city in Los Angeles County twice. Over a period of, I'm trying to remember how many years it was, but one of the few cities that have won it twice, and that's because we're proactive on business. What we try to do is we have someone involved with the city who actually goes to the businesses, tries to reach out, how y'all doing? Do you need anything from us? We have a red team, so if there's an issue with somebody is thinking about moving because of governmental regulation and that, or there's issues with utilities or something like that, if they'll talk to us, we'll try to jump right on board and do everything we can to keep them here. So we are proactive on that. A lot of people don't know that we do that. One of the things that we do, and I'm going to say it again, several years ago, we pushed hard that if you're a Whittier business and you are bidding jobs from the city of Whittier, if you are located here, we have to normally go with what's the lowest bid, and that's the way it works. If it turns out we have a Whittier City business that is not the lowest bid, but they're within 5% of that low bid, we will give it to the Whittier business. And I helped institute that. We did as a council a number of years ago. So we tried to use that as an attractive device. So we have that, and we have a number of things that we want to be basically pro-business. And for me, when I see things come in front of me on city council, I'll look at it and say, what's this saying? Is this pro-business, or are we putting another government regulation that's really not necessary? So those are the kinds of things we try to do.
Joe, I had maybe a question also about the Groves and attracting local businesses there. I mean, do you find that pretty easy with it being fairly new, and how do you attract those businesses to that area?
Well, on the Groves, the former Nellis, I'm so excited about it. I don't know if you everyone drive by Whittier Boulevard, because for years and years, remember that started in 2003. 2003, the city council started, and then there were a number of us who were not involved in the government got involved in it because that was a blighted property. And what could it do for Whittier? What could it do for the west side of Whittier, the Whittier community? So when we went through and did all the permits on the Groves, Fernando Dutra and I were on the subcommittee. And what we said is, look you want to build here? This needs to be an economic incubator for us. And so we basically put into the permit process that if there's something there that can be satisfied by a Whittier business or a local business, maybe even Santa Fe Springs, they are supposed to give them first choice as long as it's competitive. I'm told that the fencing around is a local business has done that. We have security service there at that site. It's a local business providing that. So we build into the Groves project as much Whittier as possible, and it's paying off from that standpoint. So I'm very excited about the Groves. In fact, maybe we can talk about it in a couple of minutes.
I was going to say, I think we should start a campaign. This is just my thoughts. I don't know. We got to start getting rid of the former Nellis site.
It's not
and
Nellis.
Just do the and then just keep the Groves. You know why? Why I say this is that when I explain to people who aren't familiar with Whittier or don't know the true history of Whittier, and I say that, oh yeah, it used to be the Nellis site. What does that mean? And it gets into history like, oh, well, it used to be, and like, you know what? Never mind. It was nothing.
Yeah, well, it was the Nellis California Youth Authority facility. I went in and did a Bible study in there almost pretty much every Monday night for about 8 years.
Yeah.
So I got to know it really well. And there were some really tough kids in there.
Yeah.
We're talking about murderers. We're talking about rapists. We're talking people in Whittier did not know what was going on behind the big fence there on Whittier Boulevard. And then it was gone. So I don't use the word Nellis anymore. It's the Groves.
There you
it's
go.
the Groves.
The Groves.
It's the Groves. So
with that said, how would you address housing needs?
The housing needs is a really good question, and I want to make sure everyone, excuse me, I want to make sure that everyone understands what the deal is on housing. So the governor has mandated, because of the housing crisis, mandated that local government must provide a new large number of housing units, single family, detached, attached, apartments, you name it, all the way from low income to middle income and everything in between, all right? For the city of Whittier, we've been mandated under our RENA, Regional Housing Needs Assessment, we're to come up with 3,400 new homes, new apartments. Does that bother you at all? 3,400. That means, in a city like this is built out, that means do you put them up in the hills? There's room there, but I don't think so over my dead body. So we are being forced, and we're not the only city, all right? Get this. We're not the only city that's being forced. So the problem is, where do you put it, number one? You talk about traffic and the like, and quality of life, and how do you pay for it? So we're being told that you have to get developers in here to build all these new homes. And yet, in the old days, remember we had redevelopment.
That's right.
And Governor Brown took away redevelopment.
Yeah.
And the redevelopment monies that used to stay here, we would use that to fund low and moderate income housing. We did it on the Gables in East Whittier. We did it on right here at Penn and Comstock.
Yeah.
We did that there. So there's people who are living there who otherwise couldn't afford. Because we backfilled with those redevelopment monies. Well, those monies are gone. So now they're telling us to go do this, and yet at the same time, do you think we have money to do this? We're going to talk in a minute about what our situation is from our budget standpoint. We don't have the money to do it. And yet Sacramento, at least before Christmas, was sitting on a deficit. I think it was about 21.5, not deficit, excuse me, a surplus. Oh, my goodness. A surplus of $21.5 billion. Wow. $21.5 billion. And so you would think that money's there, they will incentivize us to do this housing that. No, that money is staying right there. I believe that much of that money is our former redevelopment money that used to be down here. So how are we going to do 3,400 new units? So let me tell you what we've done here in Whittier, and it's really important that people understand this.
Before you get into that, do you know how these guys came up with that number? Like, is there a formula or just like? Yeah,
there's a formula that the governor's office comes up with, and they determined from a regional standpoint how much you have right now and how much they think you should have, and so that formula changes. We had 3,400. Prior to that, we complained about it to the local SCAG authority, Southern California Association of Governments, who kind of is involved in this, and they brought it down. It was like 4,000 something. I mean, it's just like, where do they come up with these numbers? So that's how it happens. What we've done here in Whittier, and people need to understand this, because all the time on the campaigns, there's too much traffic. You're right. A lot of that has to do with ways, has to do with, all that type of thing, but it also has to do with people and cut through traffic. Yeah. If you build more homes, there will be more traffic. Anytime we do building projects, there have to be traffic mitigation. So I want to make sure we got 3,400 new units. So what have we done? Since 2016, we built the 9 affordable units over here at Penn and Comstock. We've added like 100 new homes since 2016. So with the Groves project, we're going to have, between that and some of the other things that are going on, we're going to have over 825 new units, apartment, etc. So we've been doing this before it was, quote, in, and before they started jamming these numbers down on us. So we've been doing it for a while here in Whittier, understanding that we want to do our part, but at the same time, making sure that we have traffic mitigation and that we don't want to wreck our way of life. So once again, it's this fine balance thing. So it's not as if we have not been doing our part, and yet we're being told we got to come up with more housing, no money to do it. There's a bill, SB 50 or 54, that basically says if you're on a transit corridor where Metro has a bus or something like that, then what's going to happen? A developer will not have to come to local government to get permits. They can, by right, go ahead and build up to either 3 or 4 stories along those routes. So can you imagine Whittier Boulevard with the bus going down, both sides going up 3 and 4 stories? Can you imagine Beverly Boulevard where Montebello bus or Washington Boulevard or whatever? So that's a bill that's in Sacramento right now that's making its way through. And there would be no ability for any of us, local government to go and say, no, that's not appropriate for the neighborhood, and here's why. So they want to take away our local control, and that's going through right now. In fact, I just wrote an email to the city manager and said, haven't we put together a letter to oppose this? And they said, we're working on it. So we're watching this stuff.
No, it's important.
Did they have a date, Joe, for when the 3,400 units? Is it just open-ended where you need to provide?
Within the next 10 years, and a portion have to be low income, moderate income, et cetera. And that's what they've mandated. And as I said, within 10 years. And so where are you going to do it? How are you going to pay for it? I mean, a developer, we don't develop homes. Some developer comes in and wants to do it. That's great. But they usually need a backfill because it's not profitable for them.
Yeah.
And that's how we used to do it when we had redevelopment.
Next question. How would you address crime?
How do we address crime? Well, crime, actually, we're doing pretty well. We had a spike up 2 years ago with a lot of property crimes, and we still have some of that going on here. In terms of major Part 1 crimes, it's been pretty good. And much of those other crimes are petty theft. They're things like that. And they're a lot are related to homelessness.
Yeah.
And Proposition 47, you heard me talk about they basically decriminalized drug usage. They also decriminalized theft to a great extent. And they said you go in, steal something that's under $950, you get a slap on the hand, and you get a citation. And that assumes that the store owner wants to prosecute. Most of them don't want to prosecute. I went on, same night, I was on Ride Along, I told you, we got a call out to a retailer in Central Whittier area. I won't say who they are. And it was someone who was out in the parking lot called in and said, someone's out here, I think they just stole stuff. Well, by the time we got there, the complainant was gone and the person was gone. So we went inside. We walk in, and here's a guy. I mean, we saw him taking small stuff and putting them in his pockets, and he starts walking out. We said, stop and empty your pockets. And sure enough, he had all kinds of stuff. A lady, while we were talking to this guy, a lady walks out, and the other officer says, she's got stuff too, but we can't attend to both of them at the same time. As soon as we got in with him, we talked to store manager. You want to prosecute? No, not company policy because it's under $950. And they said, okay, don't steal anymore, get out. Wow. And we got done with him. We found someone else doing the same thing, all within 25 minutes. So it's lawless.
Yeah.
It's lawless. And it's happening throughout Whittier. Yeah. And it's happening throughout California. Right? Yeah. And so I'm going to put my plug in real quickly. Keep California Safe, which is our initiative that will help deal with these things, this serial theft, with the drug and alcohol to some extent, and with AB 109, which led, in my opinion, to the killing of Officer Keith Boyer, and how that guy got out on the street. He never should have been out on the street. We have changes in the law that's an initiative that'll be on the ballot in November. And if we want to clean up some of these things, it doesn't throw out the baby with the bathwater. It cleans out certain areas. Yeah. If we want to deal with some of these things, we need to be supportive of Keep California Safe. So you'll be hearing more about it. Hopefully I get reelected, and you're going to hear a lot more about it from me. So I had to put that plug in, guys. Sorry.
No, that works.
Yeah, that $990,
$950
is a slippery slope, because once they're in the habit of saying, well, I'll go to 700, 800, and they know they're just going to get a slap in the wrist, then it just kind of breeds more of that until it gets to a point where it becomes very serious.
Well, in this Keep California Safe initial, say if you do it 3 times, you become a serial thief, and in that situation, you can be arrested and put into jail.
Yeah.
Right now, there's nothing like that.
There.
Yeah. So
there you go.
Yeah.
All right. Next question, Joe.
Lastly,
go ahead.
On crime, address it big time. We need more police officers on the street here in Whittier. And we did a study on that, and it said we need 15, 16. We need that amount, but right now we need at least 5 or 6 officers, and maybe a little bit more. And we need to beef up the officers' presence on the street.
So 5 to 6 more on top of what we currently have.
Yeah, we're supposed to have 120 officers for both Santa Fe Springs and Whittier. The issue is we've had a number of people retire. We've had some people move and go to other departments. So you're trying to backfill with new officers. And so we've had some officers come from other departments here. We've had new officers come in, but it's a constant changing of the guard, so to speak.
Yeah.
And so we need more officers, bottom line.
Remo, send up.
Yeah, so I mean, you kind of touched it a little bit. How would you address the long-term financial stability for the city, and more specifically with CalPERS funds?
Yeah, we have an issue here. We are a city that's always had a balanced budget. We're a pretty conservative city. We don't do crazy stuff here. Very transparent when it comes to budgeting, and everything else for that matter. So, as you know, a couple of years ago, CalPERS lost a lot of money in the stock market. CalPERS is the California Public Employee Retirement System, and we have a number of people who are great employees for Whittier who've retired. But CalPERS does not have the money to be able to take care of the benefits as people get older and costs go up and all that kind of thing. So CalPERS a couple of years ago said, well, we're going to surcharge anybody who's in CalPERS system, including the state of California, counties, cities, you name it. So they started surcharging us each year. I think it was the first year was 1.2. Next year was 1.3. I think we're going up to 1.5. In other words, we got to find that money every year. Well, the reality is we had money set aside because former councils had put some money aside for the rainy day when this might happen. And through a series of circumstances I won't go into, but the long and short of it is that money is basically gone at the end of this year. And so we're in a position right now where we're going to have to come up with either 1.5, 1.6, I don't have the number, for this next year starting July 1st. And what do we do? How do we do that? Do we take it out of our general fund reserves, which are there for earthquake and things like that? We have a very a good general fund reserve, which is very we've been told that you got a really good size for the amount of people that you have, because if you have an emergency, you're going to have to dip. Yeah. So the question is, how do we come up and pay these CalPERS surcharges that are going to go to all the way to 2028? And then on top of that, we need more police officers.
Yeah.
So what do? Do we go in and we've been making cuts and we will continue to make cuts, but you can't cut your way out of this situation. So what we're doing is we're going to ask the people of the city of Whittier in the March 3rd election to vote yes on Measure W, which will basically be a sales tax increase, take us from 9.5 to 10.25, which is the max. To be candid with you, I'm a person who believes in keeping money in people's pockets, but I'm also a person that believes very strongly in fiscal responsibility and stability. Yep. And so we have to, in my opinion, we have to vote yes on Measure W so that we can make sure we're stable, and we'll be making cuts and we'll be doing other things. And my view is we'll be able to take care of the PERS issue at least for a period of time. With that, we'll also be able to get some more officers. To the extent we need a little more money on homelessness, maybe we can do that. Maybe we take some of this money and put it further aside for a reserve. The real kicker on this is that this is Taxifornia, and this is L.A. County votes always yes on tax increases. If some other government agency in L.A. County wants to come in and raise the sales tax rate to 10.25, and we have not protected ourselves here, all there needs to be is a vote in Los Angeles County to raise the sales tax to 10.25 for, say, the air quality managed district or somebody else. Then what happens is that money, which is voted upon by the people of the city of the county, basically that money will go to the county, and we won't see that money. So basically, it's a situation where we need to take care of ourselves. Glendora has done this. Azusa has done this. A number of La Mirada has done this. A number of cities around here have done this. We have waited to see if there's going to be relief from Sacramento on the CalPERS situation. Guess what? How much money did they say?
Good luck. Yeah.
Yeah, $21.5 billion. Get some relief? No. So we have to take care of ourselves.
Yeah.
So I'm a big proponent of Measure W.
And again, from a resident standpoint, I don't think it's against the or you go up against the not wanting to raise it again 1 cent or 1.5 cents more,
3/4
or 3. Yeah. I don't think it's the big financial impact it's going to have on my wallet. I think the concern is, like, if we're paying more money, where does that money go? Because, in other words, if you're asking for more, is it going to be used efficiently and responsibly? I think that's really the concern. I don't think it's more the what I'm paying out of pocket. But, you know.
Yeah, I agree. I think, I don't know, and this is something that they're out there. Is it a temporary increase? You said till 2028? Until we're no longer responsible for the CalPERS fund? Is that
no? It's permanent, but we can always come in and we had discussions about sunsetting it and all that, and so CalPERS is supposed to be till 2028. I mean, who knows? I don't believe projections more than 5 years, anyways. Yeah. To be honest with you, but you're right. That's a good. Are we spending that money wisely? Mm-hmm. We have a new city manager. Jeff Collier did a great job and is retired and was really focusing on this. Brian Psyche, who's our new city manager, is focused right in on this because at the end of the day, the number one thing that we do is we take care of public safety, and secondly, we make sure we are fiscally stable and we're balanced. Yeah. And we're working hard on that. And all I can tell you, as long as I'm here, we're going to be looking at this real closely. I'm not much into spending money other than police officers.
There you go.
At this point. So,
with that said,
yeah, let's get into some easier local questions, Joe, or funner questions, maybe even harder questions, I would say. So what do you think that, let's go to my favorite one. What are your go-to favorite spots here in Whittier to play?
Where would people find you?
You know what, I was thinking about that. And, there's some really cool places I'm not sure that people all over the city know about, so maybe I shouldn't say this, but I love the Greenway Trail.
Okay.
And I love running it on Saturdays and Sundays and other times. And the trail is in different segments, but the west side of the trail is really quiet. It's away from streets because it's through residential neighborhoods, Palm Park, etc. And if you like to go and just stroll and think and just take it easy, that's a great, great place to do it. So I highly recommend that. That's where you'll see me hang out. There's another place that I like, and I'm into being outdoors in that. The Arroyo Pescadero up here on Colima. just above from Murphy Ranch. Some people know about it, but there's some great trails in there. I bumped into a bobcat one time there. I'm not talking about a mountain lion, right? I'm talking about a bobcat, which is
tiny ones.
yeah, it's the size of a
house cat,
a big size house cat. Yeah, and that's real nice up there. It's quiet and peaceful, and there's views of Palos Verdes and that. So that's a place I like to go. I like obviously Uptown. And we've got some cool new restaurants, and there's a lot of things going on. And I think I told you, looks like we might be dedicating the new or turning dirt on the new parking structure maybe next week. We're not quite sure yet, but that's moving forward. So I'm excited. I think it's going to be a huge boon once that's done to the restaurants. I don't know about you, but Friday night, no place to park.
That's right.
And, you know, restaurants, their lifeblood is their customers. Yep. And if there's no place to park, there's a problem. Another place I like in Whittier, and I was thinking of East Whittier, but I thought, I'm going to be kind of quiet because I'll get people unhappy with me if I tell them. So the last place I was thinking of that's really cool is Sycamore Canyon, which is just outside the city limits. I don't know if you've been there, but it's part of the hills. And there's an old quarry there. There's an old hot springs there. That was the old, I think it was Calbaden. Calbaden, is that the name of it? Was it Hot Springs? That had special water, mineral water, that was unlike anywhere else except for there's a famous hot spring in Germany, and it had apparently the same kind of water. Up Sycamore Canyon, there's a quarry there where they quarried a lot of the materials that helped build Whittier. And a lot of people don't know about the canyon, so I shouldn't be talking about this, but
I know.
It's a great place to be, and just under the big sycamore trees. So those are some of the places I like to hang out.
There you go.
Yeah, those are some unique answers. A lot of times we get
the same one.
Consistent answers. You know, some of the hot spots that our people go to often. Obviously, those ones, I don't think we've ever heard any of those, right? No. Yeah. So
we're trying to be
here first.
There's a lot of stuff in Whittier that people don't know about.
That's right.
It's right under their nose. They don't see it.
Yeah. Well, the next question is, what do you think the city is missing, or maybe something that you drive to a different city to get?
Are you kidding me? Go to another city? We live in Whittier, we work in Whittier, and we shop in Whittier. We can't have a professional baseball team because we already got the Dodgers and the Angels. The thing that I think we're missing here, and I alluded to it earlier, is just a good shuttle system where people can move around. I believe firmly that here in Whittier, we don't have a Nordstrom's Rack. I'd love to have a Nordstrom's Rack. We talked to Nordstrom's Rack about being here, but they're in Brea. So we want to beef up the retail here, but I really like the idea of a transit system here. And if you need to go to downtown LA, well, hopefully we're going to have the Gold Line here, and that's going to be right across from the hospital. We'll tie into the Groves and in the AV that we just got talking about. That whole area there is. If we can get it, the Gold Line here, and I think we've got a really good shot at doing that, that whole area will be jobs with the hospital. You'll have new transit-oriented development there. So those are the things that I'm excited about, and that's going to be an economic incubator like we've not seen before. So I just believe we're all about living in Whittier, working in Whittier, shopping in Whittier. Get on the freeway once in a while to go see a ball game or do something. But otherwise, we raise our families, and we've got a good life here in Whittier.
That's right.
I get that same comment that when I tell my family, just come to Whittier. And they always say, man, you do everything in Whittier. You should. I said, well, that's the way it should be.
Yeah, and people in Whittier, they come here for a reason because that's the life they want, and that's what we want to keep it. We want to keep making it better and better, but that's what we want here in Whittier, and that's why it's exciting for me to be the mayor.
There you go. There you go.
All right, Joe. Well, how can people connect with you, whether either on social media, maybe a phone number if you want to give it, or anything else you want to share?
Yeah, the best thing is just to go to joev4whittier.com. If you want a yard sign or something, or you got questions. We also have Facebook, and we take a number of questions on Facebook. I've got people who I call and they want to talk about something, or meat, we do that. It's really crazy right now because there's so much stuff going on. But the beauty of being in a small town, this is an 88,000 person small town, but it's still a small town. The beauty is that you can know your elected representatives. You can know your city manager. You can know the police officers. You can know the firefighters who work for you. And we want to keep that small town feeling as we continue to get larger because we are growing.
Yeah.
We are growing. So that's the balance we're trying to find. And I'd love people to just let me know what they like. Trust me, I get lots of people tell me what they don't like on the homelessness issue, and we're working it and we're trying it. But I told you what we need, and we need people's help on that particular issue also. So,
Joe, appreciate you coming on. This is a lot of good information. If obviously if you're campaigning and you get reelected, we'll have to bring you back as the official mayor to kind of, I guess, go through development on some of these other questions that we've been getting. But again, appreciate you coming on. Wish you luck.
yeah.
And Jessie's now going to take me to the hot springs.
Yeah.
There's also an oil well over there, so
You
don't
might take me there.
get in the right tub, not the wrong one. All right?
Clear water, not dark water.
Exactly.
Awesome. Thank you again, Joe.
Thank you, Joe.
What's up, guys? Thank you.
Bye, Whittier.
See you later, Whittier.